The following program may contain coarse language, violence, nudity, mature subject matter, or scenes which may not be suitable for all viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Our website is www.xzoneradiotv.com, and for all the programming available on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net and on Simul TV Channel 32. My first guest tonight is Gwilda Wiyaka. We have Gwilda on two shows right now on the X Zone Broadcast Network. We have Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka and Stairway to Heaven with Gwilda Wiyaka. Joining me now from someplace in Colorado where she doesn't want her location to be given out because Bigfoot lives there with her. Here's my friend Gwilda Wiyaka. How's it going, Gwilda Wiyaka?
It's going well, Rob McConnell.
So tell me what's new.
Not a whole bunch. No Bigfoot, though.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. And for our listeners and viewers who may not have had the pleasure of joining any of our conversations or your shows, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I'm actually originally a shamanic practitioner. I've been practicing and teaching. Well, I've been practicing for 50 years and teaching probably for 40 of those. And then I've, of course, branched out into radio and TV on your networks. But the approach I take to shamanism is delving deep into the original ceremonies from all different cultures, all sorts of different cultures, and working with what they have in common, but then using those principles to develop things that help us today, because we're in huge transition right now and everything's kind of unprecedented. And I find it's a very solid form, been used forever, at least 50,000 years, to really help guide us when the status quo doesn't work anymore. You know, you can't do the same thing in the same way anymore. And so that's why I'm really motivated to stay in the forum. And my main interest, of course, is the evolution of humankind as far as spiritual evolution. And that's what the programs are about, Mission Evolution and Stairway to Heaven as well.
Question for you. You said that 50,000 years, am I correct?
Between 40 and 50,000 years, of course, nobody knows exactly.
How can that be when this is year 2023? We're missing 48,000 years somewhere.
Somewhere, yeah. Yeah, it just went away.
So what is a shaman?
Well, by the way I define it, now people think of a shaman as a Native American very often, but there's a shamanic practice behind every indigenous culture. In fact, behind all our cultures. There's Celtic shamanism, practiced in Ireland and actually all the way across Europe at one point. There's Tibetan shaman. Okay, there's Siberian shamanism. There's, of course, Native American. There's Inuit shaman and Aboriginals. It just goes on and on and on. And the practice is extremely similar, even though they have different ways they do it. The principles are very similar from culture to culture. But in my modern way of expressing what shamanism is shaman are frequency masters. And shamanism is an organized set of rituals that helps the practitioner focus their natural ability to manage matter at the quantum level or at the energetic level of life versus the physical level.
So how would a shaman be able to help someone in today's society?
Innumerable ways. I have a private practice as well as teaching, and people come to me when they're having the same thing happen over and over again. The faces change, the abuse is the same, and they're the common denominator. And maybe they've done all sorts of therapy, they've done all sorts of soul searching, and it gets better, but it's just still reoccurring. And that indicates that the energetic push-pull in their life is taking a hit. It's not functioning well. So it's drawing in this kind of treatment treatment and repelling what they need. And so my job is to find out where the incident was that created that, and correct the frequency discrepancy there and bring it back for the person. I don't really bring it back, but rather I resonate with it, and then they can resonate with what I'm bringing to them.
How do you fix the frequency? Because frequency is a set vibrational rate. So how can you fix it?
Well, just think of it like tuning a piano, or if you're singing and you're trying to sing with somebody else and you're trying to do harmony, you have to adjust and adjust and
Right.
adjust. We work with frequency all the time. This is just at a different level. And what we do is you use your intention to find and align with the optimum frequency for the person in this particular area of their life, and then bring that to them.
All right. So can a shaman predict what's going to happen tomorrow?
Yes and no. Okay. It used to be a lot easier to predict what's going to happen tomorrow because we were in slower moving times. I don't know. I'm pretty sure everybody's noticed at this point that everything is just going Mach 9. Okay. Sometimes people say, well, it's because of the information highway, all this information. There's all sorts of reasons. But basically, every indigenous culture prophesied these times when time would start moving faster and the frequency on the planet would raise and all the rules would change. So changing what we do, we have to change what we do in order to be accurate at this point, because before you could look into what looks to be the future. If you could look, like Edgar Casey does, which is into the total unified field, or you can look into the field of a person. So where you look discerns what information you get. So if I were going to be working with what your future is, I would be tuning into your field. But if I was going to look globally, I would tune more into the unified field. Okay, so you have to start there. But because we're moving so quickly, you predict it, but just predicting it can change it. The observer effect, everything has much more effect. Like a vehicle going 30 miles an hour versus one going 90 or 110.
Right.
Every movement you make makes a huge difference versus just da-di-da-di-da-di. So yes, you can, but with the caveat, everything's changing so quickly. You may be accurate right now, but it might not be accurate in 10 minutes from now.
So the future isn't set.
No, particularly not now.
So how do these psychics, get their information, and how accurate is a psychic when they give a psychic reading?
Well, first off, how they get their information, if they're doing a reading for you, is they are tuning in. We're all surrounded by an electromagnetic field that is measurable. It's science can detect it, and
Sure, it's called the aura.
Yes, yeah, the auric field or the toroidal field around the human body, or the electromagnetic field put out by the heart. Same beastie. And our fields interface. And where our fields interface, information can be exchanged. Okay. And so if I was a psychic and I was doing a reading for you, I would just drop in and kind of tune into you, basically, because I've intended to tune into you. What's happened then is our fields are crossing. And then I would see, in metaphoric form, probably, what was, cooking at the quantum level for you in the near future. The problem with that is, even if I tell you, you might change your intent, which would change the outcome.
What's the difference between intent and action?
Intention is an action on the energetic level.
Or could it be a thought?
It is, yes. It can be a thought.
All right.
Absolutely.
So based on the information that you're perceiving at this moment, I get up, instead of turning right as the intent was showing at the time of the reading, I decide to turn the opposite direction. That throws everything right off.
Exactly. If I can tell a quick story, I can kind of give an example. Because I have a referral base in my practice. I have doctors and therapists and massage therapists and psychics that I interface with, and I always go to them first to make sure that they're, particularly psychics, really understand the principles so that they're not doing more harm than good. Okay. And I went to this one lady. She combined the astrological reading with her psychic ability. And I got a reading from her. And she said, there will come a time when someone will threaten your children and you may have to take them out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a chance you won't have to, but most likely you will. And I'm going, that's a funny reading, right? So I just kind of put it on the shelf and put her name in the circular file. But it actually did come to pass that there was a very volatile situation.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, when I was in the middle of it, I recognized this is it. This is what she was talking about. And so I responded differently than I would have if I hadn't had that reading. I responded in a different way. I used a distraction method. And it diffused the situation enough that I could get out of the situation with my children safely.
So is it possible that that was strictly a coincidence and it had nothing to do with her reading whatsoever?
It certainly could be, but I have had all sorts of incidences in my life where I've had an astrological reading or this or that. Basically, a good astrologer or even a good psychic will say, these are the currents that are moving in your life. Where you surf them is up to you. And so if you know what currents are moving in your life, you can make choices to get to where you want to go versus, hit a brick wall. And that's how I see it best being used versus this is going to happen to you. Because two things can happen with that. One, a person can decide, I don't want that to happen to me and change their intent, or they can totally buy into it and create it. And that, I think, is one of the largest pitfalls of psychic information.
All right, Gwilda, stand by. You and I have to take our break. Explanation, Gwilda Wiyaka is our guest. www.missionevolution.com, Stairway to Heaven Media, right?
Yes, Stairway to Heaven Media.
And then, of course, findyourpathhome.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Don't go away.
Are you ready to dive into the mysteries of the unknown? Tune into the electrifying X Zone radio TV show hosted by the one and only Rob McConnell.
I'm Rob McConnell, and get ready for a mind-bending journey through the unexplained phenomenon that surrounds us all. From UFO encounters to cryptids, ghosts, and everything in between, we've got it covered here in the X Zone.
Rob McConnell, the seasoned investigator and renowned radio personality, brings you the most compelling interviews with top experts, authors, and experiencers from around the world. Each episode is an unforgettable exploration into the depths of the extraordinary.
That's right, X Zone Nation. Join me every week as we open the door to the supernatural and explore the strange and amazing stories that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew.
And it's not just radio anymore. With our groundbreaking TV show, you can now witness the sessions unfold right before your eyes. From chilling reenactments to captivating visuals, prepare yourself for a multimedia experience like never before.
With a legacy spanning over 2 decades, the X Zone Radio and TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, is your ultimate source for mind-blowing entertainment and thought-provoking discussions. Join our growing community of truth seekers as we continue to unlock the world's mysteries.
So, why wait? Step into the X Zone and embark on a journey that will challenge your beliefs, ignite your curiosity, and keep you on the edge of your seat.
Remember, X Zone Nation, the truth is out there, and it's waiting for you right here on the X Zone Radio and TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Don't miss a minute of the action.
Tune in now on your favorite radio station or visit xzoneradiotv.com to join the adventure. The X Zone Radio TV show with Rob McConnell, where reality meets the unknown.
The X Zone Radio TV show, unraveling the secrets of the universe, one episode at a time. For more information, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com.
And welcome back, everyone. Before we get back to Gwilda, a bit of house cleaning and housekeeping I have to do. October 7, 2023, the 2023 Halifax Paranormal Conference is going to be held in Halifax, Nova Scotia. For more information on that, please visit www.ppri.net. Bart Sabrell's new book, Moon Man, is now available on Amazon. And to find out all about Bart, what's he been up to, his books, his videos, and much more, visit Sabrell.com. Gwilda Wiyaka is my guest, www.findyourpathhome.com. And let's just keep it simple with Mission Evolution. Come on, what is it?
ORG.
There you go. I've got to tell you something. I don't put any faith in psychics whatsoever. Not 1 ounce. We used to do a lot of psychic fairs, paranormal symposiums in the early days of the X Zone. And from our booth, I could see people coming in and going from psychic to psychic to psychic to psychic, putting out 60, 70, $100 each time. So after a couple of these, I asked the organizer, why? And he says, well, when they hear what they want to hear, they go home. Why are people so... Why would anybody trust a psychic?
Well, therein lies the problem, Rob. It's like there are people that have a little bit of a gift, or maybe even a fair amount of a gift, and there's little to no training to be had for psychics, and they don't recognize that if they're seeing something, they're probably seeing a metaphor, not something literal. They don't recognize that it's not okay to go into somebody's field and read about somebody else. And I've had them do that. It's like, oh, well, your son this and your daughter that. I said, wait a minute, you don't have that permission. What are you doing? Okay.
But why do they need permission if the frequencies are out there?
It's just one of my stickling places is that I really feel that just because you can look into somebody else's space doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. I like to afford people their privacy.
I understand that, but I've been told by many psychics that, it's like a multi-band radio, AM, FM, shortwave 1, 2, 3, 4. It's up to you to tune in, and they're all public frequencies. Like the frequency never dies. And if we are to assume or believe that psychic readings are based on frequency, then aren't they up for grabs?
Some people think they are. And the reason I've set those rules for myself and my students is because I like to align with the same thing, the same of confidentiality and everything else that one deals with if you're a psychotherapist and a doctor. Okay. So I like to keep a professionalism to it, to where, okay, if somebody asks you for a reading, you're reading them. If they ask you for a reading about somebody else, you make sure they have their permission to do that. I think that it can be misleading at the best, because if you're reading somebody else through somebody else, you get less and less and less and less accurate. And that's the other reason. It's like you say, okay, what about my son? Well, if you ask me about one of your sons, I look into you. Through you, I look into them. So it's colored by you, okay, before I ever hit them. And then I'm only reading where they interface with your field, not the totality of the person. So it leaves a lot of room for error.
But if it's the frequency's out there. And if a person is psychic, they should be able to tune in not only to my frequency, but any other frequency. So is it possible that the whole concept of the frequency is all wrong? Or is it possible that psychics and mediums are charlatans?
There's a lot of them out there that are, and that's the sad thing. And they might not even know that they are. Okay, they're so enamored with getting a little snapshot of something, and the attention it gives them and the authority it gives them. If you are able to look into somebody's history, by tuning into their field, and you see that they had cowboy pajamas when they were 7 years old, okay, you can do that shamanically, you can do that as a psychic. Okay, so you do that. All of a sudden, you're omnipotent to this person. Okay, you know all there is to know, and they're going to hang on your every word and come back for more. Other psychics, they're gifted enough to kind of get a feeling of what this person wants to hear or wants to have happen, and tell them that. It doesn't mean that's what's true, but of course, if the person does set their intent for that, it might come to pass. But it's a sales technique. What is the intention of the practitioner is so important.
Here up in Canada, just until a few years ago, telling fortunes for consideration or money was against the law. So here we are in the year 2023, and people are still going to psychics.
I know.
It baffles my mind. But what is the difference between a psychic, a medium, and a shaman then?
Okay. A psychic is kind of a general term
Okay.
of people that access esoteric information. Okay. A psychic medium specifically accesses spirit of a person, whether past or present, usually someone that's crossed, or helping spirits. So they interface with a spirit per se. A shaman does all the above, and then a whole gang more. It's like the difference between somebody that knows first aid and a advanced medical doctor that's top in their field. So we, as shaman, they can work on a physical body on the energetic level. They can work on a person's history. You can go in and see where a person disconnected from part of themselves. That's what we call soul loss, and that's so it's a healing modality. It can be divinational. You can go in and look at what's may or may not be happening in a person's field that they may or may not want to avoid, and it can be more global in that you can go tune into the unified field and go, whoops, we got something coming up here. And the Native Americans, they used to find game with the shaman. Used to find game when there was no way of finding it. They didn't have horses; they're on foot, way back when. So
But how do we know that? How do we know that's really true and not just a fairy tale?
We don't. Okay.
So why do we? So here's another question: why do we take so much that the Native Americans and Native members of the Canadian First Nations always tell us as truth? We never question them. Why?
I tend to. I mean, I don't. Just because they're Native doesn't mean they're omnipotent. It does. Just because they're Native doesn't mean they're trained.
Right.
So I take it by individual, and what is your history as far as what have you learned? Where did you learn it? What's your proficiency? I don't care what color you are. So that's the difference. And that is another thing. That's another place. Anybody that is a person that looks like they're from Native American or a First Canadian, they can go out there and pour a sweat lodge, and everybody thinks they're the cat's meow, and they may not have any idea what they're doing, but they can do it, and they can get attention, and they can
bull
draw
feathers
people to them that way.
Bull feathers baffle brains.
Yes, and I'm not saying all of them do that, but it's present in every tradition.
So how can, based on what how things work on both sides of the veil, how is it that some people can communicate with the other side and others can't?
Part of it is like I'm no Michael Jordan. Okay, even in my youth, I'm too short, wrong gender, couldn't do it, right? But I could probably learn to play basketball. I had no interest, so I didn't bother. But it's a matter of degree. People are gifted in different ways. But the other part is we're in this culture, we have gotten so disconnected from our bodies that we don't pick up the information that our bodies are privy to. And they're privy to a lot. My sense of smell is just over the top. I can smell something in a room and a person doesn't smell it, and I realize, oh, it's not exactly a smell. It's more of an energy. Okay, but it registered as a smell. And then when I drop into it further, I can see more things about it. Some people hear things. Some people feel it through their skin. Some people get visions. But it has to happen through this physical form to bring it into physical reality, and most of us are not present here.
Okay, so how do they communicate with the others on the other side?
They being
the mediums, the psychics.
Oh, the mediums, the psychics, yeah. Usually they do it through accessing in a person's toroidal field. And this is something that's your energetic field. This is something I find quite interesting. And I kind of have a
Okay.
bit of a theory here. There is resonance in
Mhm.
our field with all the other people that are in our field. And so we have a personal field, then we have a family field, and that includes our animals and everything else. And when someone crosses, their imprint is still left in the individual field that they were a part of, their person with, okay, like a husband, a wife, a
Mhm.
family member, and it still resonates in the family field. And so where the psychic is reading is in the field of the individual, or if it's like a seance and there's a group, it's in the field of the group. What they're reading is not necessarily somebody coming from the other side to speak, but what that frequency or that person would have said at that time before they crossed. And so, yeah, I want to tell you this, I want to tell you that. That might have been, what the last thought when they were getting ready to cross. Oh, I forgot to make sure that she knew the safe number was such and such and such and such. Um, but I really feel that that's where it's being read, not necessarily from the spirit after it's crossed.
How do we know it's not a bunch of hooey?
We don't.
So, once again, why do you think that psychics, mediums, and other people who use forms of divination to communicate one way or another, why do you think it's still so popular? Here we are in the year 2023. Everybody's got a cell phone that has either AI chat or any of the search engines that can answer any question imaginable. So why do we need these people to tell us what to do? And why are people like sheep? Why do we want to follow the advice of a total stranger?
I'm on the same page with you with all of that.
Mm.
However, the information a lot of people are looking for is not available on the web. It's personal information about future events. You're not going to find that on Google, okay? But most people are afraid.
I hate to differ with you. I hate
Okay.
to differ with you. Now with artificial intelligence, you can actually feed it certain aspects, and it'll give you a probable
Hmm.
a field of
Probabilities.
probabilities. Yeah,
Just exactly like a psychic should do rather than telling you this is what's going to happen.
yeah.
Okay, that's my point. Is it's probabilities. It's not set in stone. And even what they're seeing is probably metaphorical, not literal. And so it's all in the interpretation and being clean about delivery. And your AIs can do that.
How about responsibility? If you go to a psychic and they give you this journey to follow, and something goes really bad, or if you go to somebody who does distant healing and something happens because of the way they follow, because of the way the person follows what the distant healer is saying, who is really not a qualified medical practitioner because they do not have access to all the information that a doctor would have who does their due diligence, and these people end up on the wrong side of the stick. How do we combat that? And should the psychic distant healer be held responsible?
That's a sticky widget. We
Why?
don't have the training. It's like there's not a like with a doctor, there's
Yeah,
state boards in this country.
right.
With a nurse, there's state boards. With a psychic, there's hang out your shingle and see who you
Sure.
can convince. I mean, that's all it requires.
All right,
And
but
so
should they have the right to give medical advice or
well,
psychological advice or play counselors?
mhm. That's another one of my pet peeves. Absolutely, they should not. And they can certainly be an adjunct. Like I
Hmm.
do medical intuitive and I do it for medical doctors on behalf of their patient, and we're all three sitting in the room, and the doctor will ask me to look at such and such and such and such, and he'll compare it with an MRI. So we're triangulating the information. Okay, but would I sit down with that person minus the doctor and tell them what's going on with their physical body? Oh, heck
Yeah.
no. I wouldn't dream of doing that because I don't necessarily know what I'm seeing, because I'm not trained. I'm not trained in that regard. So to me, part of the problem is that there is no regulation, there is no training, and just anybody half-cocked that likes to feel like an authority can go out there and hang their shingle and tell people, about their psychological condition, about their relationships, about their physical health, and these people buy into it, and it's devastating. It's devastating.
So they're ego tripping.
Yes, Rob, I'm afraid so.
All right,
Even though they don't recognize it.
Stand by. We've got to take our break at the bottom of the hour. Exonation, Gwilda Wiyaka is with us, missionevolution.org. And of course, findyourpathhome.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Gwilda, one of the funniest things that I think of quite a few funny things during this show, is that if these psychics are so good, how come they never pick the 649 numbers or any other lottery? How come they never discover a gold mine? And the list goes on and on and on. You see, if I was going to use a psychic, I would say, how many times have the numbers you've given a client have won the money? None. Oh, okay. When was the last time you picked a stock that split? None. Okay. Final question. When was the last time you discovered gold or diamonds? None. Click. Goodbye.
Well, the thing with those examples, Rob, is if a psychic is gifted at reading in a person's field, the answers to those questions aren't in the person's field. Okay. They aren't there. And so, no, they can't get those kinds of answers.
Okay. All right. But taking what you said about frequencies earlier, the picking of the numbers would in fact be in the frequency field. So if the person doing the reading is asked by the sitter to get those numbers, shouldn't the psychic be able to go into the frequency field and pick them out?
I don't know. That's pretty precise picking and a moving target as well.
But isn't any reading a moving target, since nothing is for sure?
Absolutely. And that's the point. When a person doesn't recognize that, whether they're the psychic or they're the client, then you get into trouble. You get into big trouble. And another place that people get into trouble is these big stories they tell. The psychic will say, oh, well, you were so-and-so in somebody's past life, and therefore you have all this karma to work out. And
for a fee, of course.
Oh, yeah, and I'll help you work it out, and then they it's sad. It's just really sad. The person, the psychic may not even know that that's what they're doing. This is what they're seeing. This is a story they're building. Go write a fiction book, Get yourself straight so that you can access information without painting a picture on it, and read metaphors accurately and tell a person these are the probabilities, but everything's going to depend on your choices, your intention. But a lot of them, a lot of any practitioner, some doctors too, have hidden agendas. They're even hidden from themselves. Well, I'm a very altruistic, heart surgeon, and I really want to make a lot of money. Okay. So I would rather do this surgery and make a lot of money than look into alternative medicine. Let somebody else do that. Okay. I don't mean alternative medicine. I mean alternatives.
Okay.
And back surgery, same thing. A lot of surgeons, just that's their answer. Get out the scalpel and go in and the stats show that it's not working. People rarely get better when they have back surgery.
Well, it all depends what the injury is as well.
For sure, but
we just can't throw a blanket coverage on everything that has happened or going to happen surgically.
Right. But within that, the person that is doing the work very often doesn't have any other things to offer. And so if you got a hammer, everything looks like a nail kind of thing. And there's a lot of surgeries going on that do not help. Okay, that don't help. And back surgery is one of the places where you see a lot of that. We had a gentleman I've had on the show. You know him too, Dr. Dr. Oh, doggone it. Anyway,
I see he gave you a lasting impression.
Yeah, it's just burnt in my head. When I don't think about it, it'll come to me.
I disagree with you on the surgery part. My own experiences, I've had a lot of success with Western medicine. I don't give alternative medicine very much credence because I think it's still in the woo-woo stage, that there still has to be a lot of work done on it to see if it is legitimate or not, because I think that there are also charlatans within the alternative medicine field, because it isn't regulated.
Well,
it's the wild, wild west of medicine when it comes to alternative medicine. We can't even call it medicine.
So again, my rule of thumb on that one is if I'm seeking alternative medicine, I seek it from an MD that's studied in functional medicine, is studying it in diet and herbology. So they already know the human body, they already know the Western medicine, and then they're offering other things within that, so they can watch all levels of what's going on. Otherwise, no, thank you.
How many
What you say is so
doctors?
true.
How many Western doctors are actually getting into the alternative side?
Quite a few, really, at least in this area. Of course, I'm close to Boulder. That's the mecca of that sort of thing. But a lot of medical doctors are definitely looking at functional medicine and looking into herbs and supplements and that sort of thing. Yeah, and it's nice to see, because I really think that the answer is in bringing together all of our options. And that's what I meant by alternative. I didn't mean alternative medicine. I just meant options. What are our options? And so you know, I had back surgery when I was 22, and I'd been paralyzed from gymnastics.
That's
I had
where
a spinal fusion.
That's where your negative attitude comes in when it comes
No,
to
I
spinal.
never had another problem. It was wonderful. The results were pristine.
So why the negativity about back surgery?
Oh, I was just quoting it'll come to me again. The doctor's name. He had his own show on your program. I'm just quoting the stats that he has shared with me and with us on different shows, that a lot of the back surgeries don't have the success, and the person is still in chronic pain.
Okay. Strange. What's your take on past life regression? Is it real, or is it all a bunch of woo-wooism?
Both. Okay. They're finding out so much about epigenetics right now, and genetics, and how the events of our ancestors are imprinted on the DNA and passed forward. And we've seen a lot of that. You watch a culture, they've gone through horrific things like the
Hmm.
Holocaust or starvation in Ireland or, any number of things. And then the descendants, some of it's nature nurture, some of them hear the stories from their people, but
Oh,
some
sure.
that have been adopted didn't even know they had Jewish background or whatever, still have that fear that, never trust anything. Um, always remember that something bad's going to happen. It's even woven into the wedding ceremony, the shattering of a glass, and to remember that the other side of joy, there's something bad going to happen. But there, you see that in all different cultures, depending on what their cultures have been. And the theory is that this is passed down genetically. Okay. And then it's what expressed or
Hmm.
not through epigenetics. Well, if a person is doing a past life regression, however, they're seem to be accurate or this or that, I think that what they're doing is reading the frequencies of the DNA and what the history has been. Not that this person necessarily lived the life themselves in the, wherever and whenever. I don't know that that exists or not. I don't know.
I'm amazed by how many of these people who get past life regression are always somebody famous.
Excuse me,
You,
you know how many
you,
Cleopatras there are?
you never get Hilda, the chambermaid who emptied out the chamber buckets, or you never get the squire who used to clean up the horse's poop. You always get these,
Famous people.
Caesar or this person, that person, and it's just like, oh, come on, give your head a shake.
Well, Rob,
God.
I think the people that, religiously, so to speak, go to psychics and get past life regression and all of this stuff. I mean, they're great forms, they're information, fine. But what are you really looking for? Validation? What are you really looking for? And I think before you ever go to anyone, you really have to get straight on what are you really looking for that you can't
Mhm.
find yourself? What are you really looking for?
To thine own self be true, right?
Exactly. And what do they say? The gate to the temple, it says, know thyself. So knowing who you are, knowing what you are, and being confident in that, I think would go a long ways towards reducing the charlatan factor.
And I'm just thankful that I'm Irish and we solve all our problems with Jack Daniels and cabbage soup.
Absolutely. And don't forget the corned beef.
Well, there's a lot of vegetarians in Ireland.
I
I'm just
don't
kidding
know.
with you. I forgot the corned beef. That's all.
And the potatoes. Come on, Rob.
Mm. Potatoes high in carbohydrates.
But so good.
Yeah. Gwilda, time has come when I must say so long, my friend. I want to thank you very much for joining us. Let our listeners know how they can find out more about you and where they can find out more about you.
Oh, and where they can find out more about me. The best place is findyourpathhome.com. That's where
Mhm.
you can find out about my practice and all those things and classes and online classes and the sort of thing that I have. But gosh, don't miss Mission Evolution radio show at missionevolution.org because I have some amazing guests that really bring some leading edge information. It's really fun to share.
You keep on mentioning the word practice, and every time you say it, I figure, how come you haven't conquered it yet? And why are you still needing to practice?
Yeah, there you have it. I'm always a
There I
beginner.
have it. I'm sorry?
I'm always a beginner.
That's what she said. All right, well, take care of yourself. Speak to you. Let me see. You're doing your shows tomorrow, right?
Yes, I am.
So I will be speaking to you tomorrow. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us here tonight.
It was my
Keep
pleasure,
smiling
Rob.
and please give my best to Bigfoot.
I will do it.
All right. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.